There's a popular myth surrounding the names of Greenland and Iceland. The names seem to be contradictory, as around 80% of Greenland is covered in ice, while Iceland actually has a healthy amount of forest and vegetation, particularly in summer. Legend has it that Viking explorers named Iceland to dissuade more people from settling there, and in an effort to entice settlers, they named the world's biggest island Greenland. How much truth lies in this theory is debatable, but one thing is for certain: Greenland's population remains sparse. In fact, Greenland officially has the world's lowest population density, with less than 1 person per square kilometer. Greenland's landmass is over 2 million square kilometers, yet its population is just 57,000. Its size makes it bigger than Mexico or South Africa or Egypt and Nigeria combined. The vast majority of Greenlanders live in the southern and western regions, with only 10% braving the barely habitable northern regions. Almost 20,000 live in the capital Nuuk, and even notoriously uninhabitable regions like Western Sahara and Mongolia have higher population densities. Yet a greater number of people live in similarly cold regions such as Alaska and Finland. So why the little population density? 2 words: ice sheet. Over 80% of Greenland is covered by a massive ice sheet. The ice sheet is over 3 kilometers thick, and in some parts it covers an area of about 1.7 million square kilometers. Or to give you a bit of a clearer picture, it's 3 times the size of Texas. That is some serious ice. From north to south, the ice sheet is nearly 2,900 kilometers long, which is roughly the same distance from Paris to Istanbul. If the Greenland ice sheet were to melt, then the world's oceans would actually rise by about 7 meters. And since ice sheets are formed by layer upon layer of snow that doesn't fully melt, each snowfall hardens, creating an ever-growing thick slab of ice. Obviously, this makes anywhere on the ice sheet completely unlivable, and as a result, the entire population of Greenland lives around the ice. And considering the freezing temperatures of the north part of Greenland, this means most people live in the southern and western regions. The population is highly urbanized, with 87% of Greenlanders living in towns or the main city of Nuuk. To get a better understanding of how Greenland's low population works, let's look at the history of its settlement. Greenland's original inhabitants are the Inuit people. The word Inuit means people, and it refers to the indigenous people from the Arctic region, which includes Greenland as well as Alaska and parts of Canada. The Inuit people of Greenland are thought to have migrated there from northern Canada, using the Arctic ice blocks as stepping stones to cross the ocean. 88% of Greenland's population is either Inuit or a mix of Inuit and Danish. The Danish heritage comes from when the United Kingdom of Denmark and Norway set up a trading monopoly with Greenland during the 18th century. The settlers established the city of Nuuk in 1728, and in 1776, Denmark assumed full control of the island. The relationship with Denmark has continued until today, with Greenland being an autonomous country within the Kingdom of Denmark. Despite the long association with Denmark, only about 7% of Greenland's population are Danes. The only other non-Inuit inhabitants come from the other areas, such as Canada and Northern Europe. The Inuit people recognize Greenland as their home, but most people contemplating settling in Greenland are soon put off by the weather. Not particularly surprisingly, Greenland can be intensely cold. The north and northeastern parts of the island are classified as being in the high Arctic zone. Temperatures can plummet as low as minus 50 degrees Celsius, and they rarely go above zero between September and May. Only the Inuit people seem to be able to tolerate these harsh conditions, which accounts for the sparse population in this part of Greenland. As for the southern regions of Greenland, yes, the weather is warmer, but not by much. The climate in this part of the island is low Arctic, with temperatures not getting much higher than 10 degrees Celsius in the summer. This might be fine for people who can't stand the heat, but there are other factors behind Greenland's low population. Getting around is problematic, to say the least. There are no roads or railways connecting towns in Greenland, so the only way to move from one place to another is by sea or by air. People in the towns and cities own cars, but again, car ownership is much lower than in other countries. While more than 1 in 2 Americans own a car, in Greenland it's close to 1 in 20. Most people in the towns prefer to get around by taxi, bus, or light rail. Again, this might appeal to those coming from cities clogged up by traffic jams and car fumes, but it's simply too inconvenient for most. Others may be hesitant to live in Greenland as its economy is largely dependent on fishing, with very few other developed industries and almost no manufacturing. Shrimp and fish account for over 90% of its exports, and Greenland also relies on generous annual subsidies from the Danish government, which covers over half of Greenland's government revenue and amounts to 25% of the total GDP. The service sector is Greenland's other major employer, with most workers employed in either of the two industries. Despite the dependence on fishing and Denmark funding, unemployment is relatively low at around 4% per year, which is on par with Germany, the UK, and the US. And the upside is, if you want to work in Greenland, there's definitely jobs. Another factor working against Greenland is that it's feeling the brunt of climate change much more noticeably than anywhere else. The Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else on the planet, twice as fast, in fact. Scientists have estimated that Greenland loses a staggering 110 million Olympic-sized swimming pools of water every year. Greenland's gradually shrinking ice caps are causing global ocean levels to rise. The meltwater is guessed to be double that of the levels in Antarctica. It hardly paints a picture of somewhere stable to call home. Added to all of this is the location. Greenland just seems to be too far away for people to consider living there. There are many who would love nothing more than to live in a secluded part of the world away from people, but Greenland could be a bit of a stretch too far. Because, in my personal experience, there ain't really no such thing as a lone wolf. But anyways, although countries such as Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and Norway all lie a few hours away by plane, Greenland is very isolated. While it has all the services that any developed country has, it still feels a little too distant for some. All of which begs the question, why live there at all? Well, there's actually several reasons, but it depends on the kind of person that you are. As mentioned earlier, if you want to be around as few people as possible, that is the place for you. If you picked your place, preferably somewhere on the southern tip, you could literally go days without bumping into anyone. Maybe you're an outdoors nut and you'd love to get into some truly unique activities. And if that's the case, Greenland is indeed the place for you. You could try your hand at kayaking through icebergs, maybe cycle to a glacier, or take the family harpooning. And if you're a little more laid back, you could simply find a cottage somewhere and be surrounded by some of the world's most stunning landscapes. Greenland has an abundance of vast, untouched wilderness, which includes fjords, huge icebergs, glaciers, and of course, the Northern Lights. If, however, you'd like to call at least some occasional social interaction yours, you could live in one of Greenland's towns scattered across the southwestern coast. You could almost certainly find a job in the service sector or fishing industry, or perhaps start up your own cafe or bar. Education, healthcare, or your retirement pension wouldn't be a problem, as Denmark foots the bill. Plus, of course, you'd have access to some of the world's freshest water, straight off the ice sheet. Greenlanders seem to be fairly happy with their lot, and they certainly aren't pleading with people to pack up and move there. However, in the not-too-distant future, Greenland's population could start to see an upswing. In the south of the massive islands lays one of the world's largest rare metal deposits. These rare metals are essential components that are used in the production of high-tech goods, such as smartphone batteries, electric cars, wind turbines, computer screens, and a host of other products. China currently sits on at least 70% of the world's rare earth metal supply, and other nations are keen to source other options. Greenland could very well be one. Greenland's premier Mute Egade has welcomed foreign investment, acknowledging that with it, he hopes for more infrastructure and capital for his country. This will surely lead to at least some kind of population growth. But the big question is, do Greenlanders really want more people? Time will tell.